questions. It'll be a one question, one follow-up per outlet, and if you can just say your name, introduce yourself, and the outlet that you are with.
Yeah.
So with that.
All right.
Good morning, Graham. Good morning, Minister. Good morning, Hardeep. Question is since inflation is 6.3% right now, and Bank of Canada's today's announcement about 25 basis point increase rate hike. Being a minister, what do you think? Is that the Bank of Canada is on a right track, burdening Canadians where they cannot afford a home because minimum wage is $16 and inflation is 6.3%, and again a rise with giving a hint that this will be last in a row, 8th consecutive time, which is I don't think ever anywhere in the world it happened that 8 times in a row the interest rate was being hiked. So being a minister, what do you think? Is a right decision by Bank of Canada, or there were some other alternatives also to tackle the inflation instead of burdening the Canadians?
Well, and that's a great question. We're in a tremendously difficult fiscal time. Obviously, when I first got involved in municipal politics was in the early 80s, so I have a bit of experience with dealing with high interest rates and fiscal challenges at the municipal and provincial level. I can only speak from the provincial perspective. There are things that are going to be out of my control, right? Canadian inflation, the interest rate changes, those are out of our control as provincial politicians. So what can we control? We can control things that are under our purview. And the Housing Affordability Task Force gave us that long-term roadmap as a government to put in place to create the climate for 1.5 million homes. And that's why we were honest, open, and transparent with Ontarians during the election, that we said that if our government was going to be reelected, Premier Ford said, we want to put that plan in place. So that's why we've been so aggressive in our housing supply action plan. Both the first one I did, More Homes, More Choice, in 2019, and the results were good. We had high housing starts. In 2021, we had the highest housing starts we had in over 30 years. We had over 100,000 housing starts. I knew, because of some of those market forces like you're talking about, that we weren't going to get the 100,000 level this year. We just missed it, right? We just were under 100,000 in 2022. Market forces are even stronger for 2023. So what do we need? We need to ensure that when the economy improves, when inflation and interest rates are corrected back, that we've put every policy in place that we can as provincial legislators to get shovels in the ground and create the climate with our mayors and our councils across the province. That's why you're going to see not just the initiatives that we've done in the legislature, but we're going to have more. But I'm very concerned about those forces that are really outside of provincial or municipal jurisdiction. It's a concern, and it does have an impact on housing starts.
Follow-up for the Greenbelt project question. There are many critics. They are not happy with this decision of the government of the Greenbelt. How confident are you and your government is about that no wrongdoing has been done since RCMP investigation is on this? And also, in case you want to comment on because you're a housing minister for the province, and there is an allegation on the housing minister for the federal, and there is in the Greenbelt, there is an allegation on these Greenbelt projects also. If you can collaborate and comment on that.
Yes, I'm going to continue to assist both the Integrity Commissioner and the Auditor General with their investigations. The Integrity Commissioner has already dismissed the allegation against the Premier and I that we personally benefited, so that's false. I'm going to continue to tell you the same thing outside of the legislature that I said inside the legislature. At no time did I give any advance notice to anyone, and I'm confident that the investigations are going to support my comments. Also, on the Auditor General piece, it is a value for money audit. And I think the best value for money in the middle of a housing supply crisis is that we get those 50,000 homes at a minimum being built on those lands, and at the same time we're growing the Greenbelt by 2,000 acres. So I'm going to continue to work diligently. I'm not well versed in some of the federal situation with the Minister Hussein, so I really can't comment on something I don't know the details on. But what I can say on the details around what's happening with the Integrity Commissioner and the Auditor General is I'm confident that at the end of the day and at the end of the investigations that things will be upheld and it will show that we follow things appropriately. And I'm going to continue to work with them on that.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Minister and our MPPs. This side is Taranjeet from Hamdard TV. My question is government has set a target of 1.4 million homes. But if we have a look at the immigration department, they are saying each and every year there will be immigration around 4.6 lakh this year, 4.85 lakh next year, and 5 lakh around after that. But the thing is, do you think so that these homes will be enough, as the real estate market experts, they are putting some questions on the achievable target?
Yeah, and you're probably better at math than I am. So you look at the best year we had, the 2021 year that I talked about, that was 100,000 starts. So 100,000 a year over the next 10 years isn't going to get us to that 1.5 million. We've also got the market forces that I talked about earlier that work against us getting shovels in the ground, the high inflation rate, the changes in interest rates. So again, we can only do, as a provincial government and as provincial MPPs, things that are under our purview. But I am concerned, right, with the numbers. Right after our Housing Supply Action Plan task force said we needed to build 1.5 million homes, CMHC sent a report that said the number might be closer to 1.7 million. Then the Prime Minister made the announcement about the increased immigration targets, that there'll be another 500,000 people coming to Canada. We all know, the three of us know, that the majority of those new Canadians who we're going to welcome are going to come to Ontario. So that number is even higher. So it's even more of a priority for us as MPPs to ensure that we've got every opportunity at the provincial level, every plan, every regulation, every law, that we have to look at it with the lens of how can we get more shovels in the ground and how can we help our municipal partners. It takes too long to pull a building permit and housing costs are too high. We have to look at that next generation of Ontarians and give them some hope that there's going to be a house that meets their needs and their budget. That's the motivation for the three of us as MPPs, the other Brampton MPPs, and we're going to continue to ensure that mayors and councils have what it takes.
I also want to mention, in Ontario, we welcome the increased immigration, right? We have a labor shortage of almost 400,000 jobs. But back when I was first a candidate about a year ago, that number was about 300,000. So that labor shortage is actually increasing. But if we're going to be welcoming in new Canadians into our province, which we believe makes Ontario better, we also need to build infrastructure for when people arrive here. We need to be building highways for them to drive on. We need to be building healthcare infrastructure, hospitals for them to go to when they get sick. We need to be building the 1.5 million homes over 10 years. And the minister has put forward bill after bill, which has tangibly increased housing supply in Ontario. The Liberals and the NDP have opposed them every single time. When we put forward plans, we're putting 60,000 new long-term care beds. The Liberals and the NDP oppose them every time. And, I know when they come and do your program, they might say that they're pro-immigration, they're pro-new Canadian. But the PC party and our government are the only ones that are taking seriously right now the infrastructure gap that we really have. So we need politicians to step up, be pro-growth, pro-development, pro-new Canadian, and that's exactly what this minister is doing, that's exactly what our premier is doing, that's what our government's doing.
And my follow-up question is, when we talk about the infrastructure, new immigrants also put pressures on the cities. And what about the new transportation system? Buses are fully packed right now.
So if I could add to your comment about our transportation network. So Brampton is a wonderful city with a growing population, and the majority of our young workforce comes from Brampton. And that's why, fortunately, our transportation system in Brampton has been able to reach pre-pandemic levels of connectivity faster than any other city, whether it's Toronto, Mississauga, Oakville. And just recently, a few weeks, about a month or so back, with the Premier and the Minister of Transportation, we were here to offer pandemic relief grants, not only for Brampton, the City of Toronto, the City of Mississauga, the City of Oakville, and cities across the province have been receiving funding from the Government of Ontario to support our transit networks across the province. So like the Minister said, and like MPP McGregor said, we've been making unprecedented historical investments, whether it comes to infrastructure, whether it comes to transit services across the province, and that's what we're going to continue to do. And when it comes to supporting our cities, we provide that funding. We're there for them, and we're there to see the expansion and growth. And I believe just recently, Metrolinx also announced a public consultation with the new Brampton BRT bus transit line, which is going to be running rapid bus services and increasing our connectivity from Brampton to Vaughan. So we're actively working on increasing Brampton's transportation network.
Thank you.
That's great.
Good morning, Honorable Minister and respected MPPs. It's great initiative to set up target for building 1.5 million houses. But my question is regarding the builders who are going to build these houses. Some of the builders are making plans to go out of the written agreement of purchase and sale by making excuses that construction costs have gone up. So how would you deal with these kind of builders so that buyer confidence in those written agreements is okay?
Yeah, this is something that Minister Rashid, our Minister of Business, Public Business and Service Delivery, has talked to me about many times. Part of our most recent bill really comes down hard on unethical builders who decide to stick purchasers with a bill after time. So we're going to continue to consult. I spoke to Minister Rashid about this the other day, and they're going to continue to consult across the province with both builders and also consumers on what other consumer protection measures need to be added to future bills. The beauty of what I said earlier, the fact that under the leadership of Premier Ford, our government is going to have a housing supply action plan bill each and every year. So I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that some of the consultations that Minister Rashid has commenced or will be commencing will ultimately lead to better protections for consumers so that they don't fall into situations like you've categorized in your question.
Just a small follow-up question. That agreement of purchase and sale in case of condos, it's binding from buyer side, but it's open-ended from builder side. So builder can walk away anytime.
Yeah, and that's something that I think as part of this consultation, he's very cognizant of, both from the regulator side, but also some of the consumer protections. We need to ensure that any unintended consequences that have come out of the pandemic, whether it be supply chain challenges or labor challenges, while we are sympathetic to those, at the end of the day, it can't cause a purchaser to be stuck with a bill at the end of the day. So we're going to continue taking our all of government approach to ensure that we hear some of those stories, and we're very aware and because we've provided legislative and regulatory time to build upon our success, those are things that are top of mind with the minister.
Thank you.
And I'll make sure that I'll call him on the way back to the riding. I'll make sure he knows that was a question that came up.
Thank you
today.
very much.
Good morning, Ministers. My name is Ajay Fotidar. I'm trying to all my colleagues and the friends. I have a very simple question. Since you just mentioned that the affordability, so it seems like it's a very generic word. But is there any criteria where while affordability means it has to be matched with the people who really needs them, and in terms of the numbers, in terms of their the income brackets. So do we have something related to that, or check, or the system that we are really doing right and for the right people?
Yeah, and that's exactly the motivation for us in our More Homes Built Faster Act. Part of the development charge discounts or exemptions are for exactly those type of homes. It would be for affordable or attainable homes, inclusionary zoning, nonprofit housing, or purpose-built rental. Because we know the Housing Affordability Task Force told us as MPPs that the costs of building a house are too high. The average unit in Brampton has about $125,000 of fees and charges that ultimately, at the end of the day, for a young couple just starting out, adds about $800 a month on a mortgage over 20 years. That's too high. So our government is looking at, through this last bill, to try to decrease that cost, to lower the baseline cost of building. So at the end of the day, those costs can be received at the purchaser or the renter level. The other challenge that we want to work collaboratively with municipalities on is the actual definition of what attainable and affordable is, and we're going to continue to work with our partners. We just finished the Rural Ontario Municipal Association. Both MPP McGregor and MPP Greywall were there talking to municipal delegates. This is something we want to work with them on. We want to make sure that we get this right, and at the end of the day, people can realize the dream of home ownership, right? They need to get a home that meets their needs and their budget.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Morning, Minister. This is Prabnoor from Parvasi. So we know that the federal government was planning on converting the commercial units to housing. So is Ontario planning on doing something like that?
We're working very collaboratively with the federal government as part of the national housing strategy, the bilateral agreement for funding. We're working very, very collaboratively. In fact, earlier this week at that Rural Ontario Municipal Association conference, I announced an increase in the Canada-Ontario housing benefit to help women and children that are fleeing domestic violence. There are some big ticket programs at the federal level, and I know these two MPPs beside me, they want to make sure they get their fair share for Brampton. These are accelerating development approval fund. There's a rent-to-own program. So there's a number of federal programs. And the message I want to give you today is these two are going to hold me to the fact that we want our fair share. Right now, we're being shortchanged by the federal government because of our core housing need, about $480 million over the life of the National Housing Strategy. We want to make sure that we get our fair share so that we can work on projects exactly like your question is involved in. So the federal government's got a role. We're quite willing to work with them on some of their initiatives, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that Ontario gets every dollar that we deserve.
Another question about the Housing Supply Action Plan. So the plan mentioned that the builders would no longer have to pay the development charges, but the costs are still incurring. So how will Ontario be compensating the municipalities?
Well, we've said to municipalities we want to make them whole, but as well, we've got to understand exactly what their financial impact is going to be. You know, here in Brampton, they have about a $235 million development charge reserve fund, and we know that most municipalities understand that they're still going to be able to collect development charges on some type, but incenting development charges. So that's your question about reducing development charges for the builder. This is not a new concept. You know, municipalities have been doing this for years. If they want more purpose-built rental, many municipalities are eliminating or reducing development charges as an incentive to build more purpose-built rental. If they want more affordable housing and more attainable housing, more inclusionary zone, more nonprofit housing like Habitat for Humanity, many municipal officials incent development charges. You know, the only difference is now we're making it mandatory under More Homes Built Faster. Why are we doing this? Because we're in the middle of a housing supply crisis. We're not building as many units as we need to get those costs down. So that's something that we all as MPPs are going to continue to advocate for.
And if I could add on that, you know, we've seen a lot of misinformation there, thinking that development charges just don't exist anymore. That's categorically false. Obviously, we're limiting the increase on all development charges, but then exempting affordable and nonprofit housing. But you know, you look at a place like Mississauga. So the mayor of Mississauga, Her Worship Bonnie Crombie, has been very vocal against building more homes, and she's actually put flyers out in the neighborhood saying that there are going to be these disastrous impacts. You know, it's $126,000 on average to build a semi-detached on development charges in Mississauga. Never mind the municipal delays that kick on it. And that 126,000, that's a 27% increase over the last 2 years that's happened in the city of Mississauga. Every month of municipal delay can cost almost $4,000. So if you look at delays on permits and approvals, it's about $40,000 a year. Say about 5 years of delays, it's about $200,000. So you tack that on, $126,000 in development charges, $200,000 in municipal delays. We're all wondering, why is housing so expensive? Why can't we afford it? I think municipalities and all government really needs to take a look into their backyard, and there's a lot that government's doing to make that more expensive. One of the great things about the minister's bill, More Homes Built Faster, is that we're actually making it cheaper to build and making it cheaper to own a home here in Ontario.
Good morning, Minister. My name is Kulwinder Sheena. I'm running Radio South Asian Voice in Brampton. Good morning, both of you. My first question is, last year Ontario government announced Ontario need 1.5 million houses in the next 10 years to tackle the housing crisis. In the meantime, Canada government announced they bring every year 500,000 immigrants. Ontario, especially GTA, is a growing city, industrial city. Lot of new immigrant influx. They try to live in GTA. So we have already lot of housing crisis. So my question is how Ontario government would handle these two things.
Yeah, it's a great question, and we know that almost immediately after the Housing Affordability Task Force gave us their report, it was almost a year ago, we knew that based on the federal government's announcement increasing immigration to our country, that the majority of them, you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. The majority of those new Canadians who we want to welcome to our province are going to be coming to the GTA. So we know that areas like Brampton, Mississauga, and Peel Region are going to be under a lot of pressure to get a plan in place. And that's why the government has committed to changing housing policy every year in a re-elected government under the leadership of Premier Ford. Here in Brampton, we need to make sure that we're positioned for growth. That's why I've announced part of the regional government review that I'll be appointing a facilitator to Peel Region, because we need to ensure that those municipalities have the tools that they need to get shovels in the ground so that we can not only build the 1.5 million homes that you mentioned, but that we recognize that we're going to have increased pressure because of the new immigration targets. So we want to partner at the federal level. I've talked about the need for increased federal funding, but we need to ensure that the mayors and the members of council in Peel Region have everything that they need to support us in building their fair share of the 1.5 million homes.
My second last question, you are right now in Brampton, and you have beside two Brampton leaders.
You're fantastic.
So, if I don't have a data right now, but if we see in the GTA, the most growing city is Brampton, and we have a lot of international student influx in here. Any special package for the Brampton for the affordable housing?
Yeah, well, I want to tell you, and both, MPP Greywall and MPP McGregor can talk about their own advocacy, but they are tremendous partners with the government and with my ministry. My ministry has Associate Minister Michael Parsa and Parliamentary Assistant Kevin Holland, who have really been leading the way in terms of consulting with members like the two that are on either side of me. We want to make sure that we give all of those local MPPs the tools that they can to meet their expectations and their needs in their own communities. The Premier loves the city of Brampton, loves to come and visit, and loves to hear the priorities of Bramptonians and of our local MPPs. So I know that they're, just like I want my fair share with the federal government, they're going to make sure that Brampton gets its fair share. Maybe they want to get Brampton to get more than their fair share as well, but they're great. They're great MPPs, and we're going to continue to work with them to make sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I'll let them speak for themselves. So.
Yes, Minister, Brampton wants our fair share.
All right, well, that was the last question, so I'm just going to pass it right back to the minister and our MPPs here if you want to have any last words, and then we can wrap it up.
You first? No.
Sure, I'll start. So just want to thank you all for being here with us today, and really this was our opportunity to speak to you directly one-on-one regarding Bill 23, more homes built faster, and our vision as a government to deliver these homes being built faster across the province, and especially when we talk about Brampton, as you just said, the idea here is to kind of streamline the rules across the province. And when some of the questions were asked regarding development charges, obviously development charges still exist for builders, but however, this isn't a new practice that our province has implemented on these cities. This is a practice that the city already does on an existing basis for individual nonprofit and affordable home builders. But now what we want to do is streamline that process across the province, so builders know that if they'd like to come in and build affordable homes, and nonprofits want to come in and build affordable homes, that they have the same rules across the province, not varying city to city. So that was the reasoning behind that. And the same thing comes when Alderman Sheena just asked his question about all the new immigrants that are going to be coming into Brampton. Without this act, we're going to be left with an even bigger housing crisis that we have today. So with the implementation of this new act, we'll be able to build new homes across the province at a much faster speed and a much larger rate, and having rules that are kind of the same across the province, not varying city to city. So those are some of the things that we're working on. And I'd like to once again thank Minister Clark for taking the time out of his busy schedule to come into Brampton and personally explain the changes, and I'd like to thank him for taking as many questions as he possibly could today from all of our members of the respected media that's here. So once again, thank you to the media for showing up. I know it was a little bit of a short notice, so we really appreciate your time and coming out on such a prompt notice. And also like to thank the minister for taking the time, and MPP McGregor for organizing today's event, and just being here for us and answering these questions. So thank you very much, Minister.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Very kind.
Hardeep, MPP Graywall summed it up. We heard time and time again during the campaign that Brampton needs to be heard. We need our voices to be heard. That's exactly what we're doing with our MPPs. We thank the minister for being here today to talk about what we're doing on housing supply. Look, we have set out to make sure that we're doing more than just looking at what tomorrow's headline looks like. We're looking at what does the next 2, 5, 10 years of the province looks like, and what kind of results are we going to deliver. And that's exactly what the minister's doing with the Housing Supply Action Plan coming out year after year. Our Brampton caucus is going to be here to support him every step of the way.
Well, and I just want to take the opportunity first to thank both MPP McGregor and MPP Graywall, first for their kind words, second for their incredible advocacy for the people that they represent. They are true, in the Premier's famous words, they're true champions for the people of Brampton, and I want to thank them for providing me this opportunity to talk to you today. I really thank you for coming. I know that the weather is a bit challenging, or at least it's going to be challenging over the next 24 hours, so I really appreciate you taking time to come. And I just want to close by saying this: there's not one thing we can do to solve this crisis. There's no silver bullet that the government can just pull out and use to solve the crisis. It's a long-term problem. It requires all three levels of government to work together collaboratively, because we owe it. We owe it to that young family that right now doesn't see a path to home ownership. We owe it to that senior who wants to downsize but can't find a home that meets their needs and their budget. And as we've said today many times, the three of us, we owe it to that new Canadian who wants to come to Ontario to create the better life and more opportunities. And we need to ensure that both our existing residents in the province and our new community welcomes them with a new home that meets their needs and their budget. It's a big problem. Just want to thank you for being here today, and drive safe. We'll see you soon.